Cool. My face looks really good up there. Right. Can I just take this and move this over here? I'm more of an Adele than a Beyonce, so I'm gonna sit on the stage. So when I do speaking things, the first thing that I like to do is ask the audience to acknowledge the Black girl magic in the room. So can we give a round of applause for the women of color, please? Thank you. All right, and my clicker. Cool. I'm gonna just trust the laughter as my guide. So I went to RISD. I graduated, it's been a year, you guys. It's been so long. I studied illustration with a concentration in gender, race, and sexuality. So I studied myself. And I took that concentration because I wanted to learn about other people's struggles and identities. Because when I first went to RISD, I was incredibly conservative. And I didn't understand other people's struggles. And as a woman of color, I felt like it was really important for me to be intersectional with my understanding of social issues. So this is a photo of what typically happens when I'm in a room, or what I think people feel like when I'm in a room. It's a joke. I hope I'm not burning the room down. So I'm a cisgender, straight, Black woman. I recently just moved to Cincinnati about 6 months ago. And I feel like I'm more than capable of talking about taboo in relation to my life experiences and living here. I often get asked to do things like this because as a Black woman, I have specific experiences where I'm dealing with like discrimination or talking about these issues. Like I have a very strong understanding. And they consider, sometimes when I'm talking, people consider me aggressive, which is fine. And they think that that can be helpful in challenging people. I wanted to open with this slide because I used to be afraid of being perceived like that. And does anyone know where this image is from? Yes. Yes. Let me tell you about this scene for the people who don't know. So homegirl, who's the actress? Yes, queen. So her husband is leaving her. He's been cheating on her with some white woman. And she's like, you're gonna take your shit and you're gonna leave. So she takes all his stuff and puts it in a car and she sets it on fire. And I'm just like, yeah. I would never do that, but I thought that was really cool. And that's how I feel when I'm like open my mouth and talking, that people feel like I'm just being aggressive and I'm just like throwing all my anger at them. And I used to be afraid that when I talked about social injustices, it would make people see me like this. And it was taboo for me to be a Black woman expressing my frustrations. It seems like it's taboo in general for people to say how they really feel. And I've been picking that up in Cincinnati a little bit. I'm from New York. And, oh, is it true? Whew. All right, we're gonna fix that. I'm from New York. I went to school in Rhode Island where Brown University is, and when we see something we don't like, we're like, excuse me. Sometimes we don't even say excuse me, we just be like, stop. Like, so I'm a New Yorker, I don't really care. I'll say how I feel, of course with a certain level of tact, but I feel like it's still important to put that out there because I'll go to events here and someone will feel the same way that I felt, but they won't tell me until after we left. I'm like, you had the opportunity to say that to their face though, just like I did. What were you doing? So it took me a while to break down those walls to get to that point of just, I don't care, I need to say how I feel kind of thing. And I found by speaking up, I encouraged other people to do the same thing in my community, on my campus, through people that I just have met. Like, after one conversation, people are like, you're so passionate. And I'm like, I know, I say how I feel. So the next slide. So that's my family. That's me, my mom, and my dad. As you can tell, from a young age, I wasn't really with the bullshit. I just looked so over it. I'm almost positive that I did something reckless in the restaurant and got in trouble that night. So I grew up in a super religious Haitian family. And when I mean religious, I mean that I still don't have my ears pierced, but I have all these nose piercings that my family really hates, which is fine, I don't care. And so growing up in a Haitian family, you lived by the 3 L's, which is l'école, l'église, l'écaille, which means house, home, church. And so those are the only 3 things that I did. And I had to convince my family to let me do extracurriculars by telling them, like, I need these for college. And so they pretty much did that because they didn't want me to be like the other American children, because there was like this stigma or perception of how American children were. And it was the kind of house where children were seen and not heard. Some of you have probably grown up like that. And I wasn't really supposed to be challenging authority, but I'm a Gemini, and I'm a type A person, and that's just like how I am. So it was really difficult for my parents. And it was the kind of house where there were also these ingrained ideas of how you were supposed to act because of who you were. So I was a girl, you know, you have to dress a certain way, you have to act a certain way, you have to speak a certain way. So this is me in college, in kindergarten, in elementary school, middle school, and high school. I was pretty much like the only black person in all my classes, and it felt like that. And I remember, because my parents knew what kind of spaces I was going to be navigating in, that they gave me specific advice. I didn't plan on telling this story, but I think it's funny. I remember my dad sent me to kindergarten. He said, if anyone puts their hands on you, take whatever you can find and just hit them with it. And I was like, okay, Daddy, got it. He also gave me this advice, which was I have to dress better, I have to be more be smarter, and I have to behave better than the other children, because they wouldn't expect me to be any of those things because of who I am. And this is when I was first introduced to self-policing. Do you guys know what I mean when I'm talking about policing yourself? Does anyone want to shout out an example of how they've policed themselves?
Okay, so it took me a long time to figure out that it was okay for me to eat fried chicken in public.
Right? Do you know how many times I've cooked fried chicken just to make up for the lost fried chicken that I didn't get to enjoy? You know what I'm talking about because you've had my fried chicken. It's wrong. So self-policing is when you censor your behavior or language in order to be perceived a certain way to avoid being stereotyped. It is not my job to not be a stereotype in order for you to not be racist or discriminate against me. Yes. So this is something that a lot of marginalized people do in order to successfully navigate in spaces where they are not the majority. And this is when the idea of blackness was introduced to me as taboo. And when I say blackness, I mean like the idea that it's wrong to be black, pretty much. Like you don't want to be the certain type of black person that people perceive in a certain type of way as, you know, less than. So I wouldn't speak AAV, which is African American Vernacular English. Why are we laughing? Oh, you know, you gotta speak proper and you need to enunciate and, I wouldn't listen to hip hop. Matter of fact, where is this picture? Where is this slide coming from? Oh no, I'll show it to you in a second. I wouldn't speak hip hop, I wouldn't listen to hip hop, and I wouldn't associate with the black kids because I didn't want to be associated with those black kids, because I saw how people talked to them, treated them, how our society has portrayed like black people in media. So I had to deal with ideas being forced on me by my parents and ideas being forced by the media, which was then enforced by my peers. My parents taught me self-policing in order to protect me from discrimination I would face based on others' biases. And I ended up using it to assimilate and be accepted by my peers. Like kind of accepted, but like not really, but like close enough to get by and like not cry, you know. So I would often hear things like this: "You're the whitest black person I know." And I used to think that was a compliment. But it's really not, because when you say that, you're pretty much just saying you're surprised that I speak so intelligently, and you don't expect black people to be smart because black people don't read books or anything like that, you know? And it wasn't until college that I became woke. And by woke, I mean became socially aware and like unpacking these issues. An example of how I would use the phrase woke is if my girlfriend told me about a date and I would be like, yeah, he's cute, but is he woke? Like, because he's, you know, did he vote for Trump? Like, we need to talk about these kinds of things. People think I'm joking when I talk about that, but I really do ask. It's not a game. So my levels of wokeness happened in 3 phases, and I saw a meme on Facebook that accurately described my transition. I'm gonna show that to you now. So those are the 3, yeah. So Act 1, I used to be a Stacey Dash. Yeah, man. It was bad. It was really bad. So Stacey Dash, for those who don't know, she's an actress who was in Clueless. I don't really know what else she's done. She's been in like a Kanye West music video. I don't know if she do anything else. She represents the type of black person that caters to the white gaze and white validation, where she's pretty much, how do you say, like an Uncle Tom, the token black person. That's the black person that when someone racist says something, they go, my black friend said that I could do this. And we're like, yeah, but I'm not that person. So she's a token. And this is the type of person I was in middle school, high school, and beginning of college. And actually, here's a photo of what I looked like in high school. I was very, very emo. But I was also very cute. I think the hat looks good. I straightened my hair because I thought naturally curly hair was ugly, and people told me I looked better with my hair straight. I did these things because I didn't want to look like the other black people or be associated with them, and I saw, like, you know, how people would talk about them. But the weird thing is that as much as I tried to be a special snowflake, as much as I tried to get the white kids to like me, I was still black. And what I realized is I was struggling with internalized racism, the same way that someone like Stacey Dash is struggling with internalized racism. And what that is, it's when a person of color absorbs prejudice and then projects that back onto people of their own identity. So pretty much when you hear black men say, like, you know, I don't really mess with black women because this, this, and this, or, you know, I don't like other black people because they steal or something like that. Just putting back those stereotypes onto their own people, which is pretty messed up. And it wasn't until college that I realized all the ways that I had been censoring myself and other people of color. Yeah, I got what I like to call the nigger wake-up call, which is like, wake up, you're black. And it usually happens when you face some type of discrimination, and that's what a lot of black celebrities will get sometimes. It's like, oh, I thought I was famous. Like, I thought my affluence could get me through these things. Like, why are you stopping me? Why are you arresting me because I fit the profile? You know, just a general black person. It's because you're black. You're still black. It doesn't matter how much money you have, you are still black. And so my alarm happened in 3 phases. The first was a classmate in my freshman year pretty much talking about how they assumed that all the black students got in because of affirmative action, as if our faces were our applications and I didn't get an incredibly high score on my SATs and prepared a portfolio and worked really, really hard. And that's the kind of thing that makes me work harder, to be like, hey, I deserve to be here, fuck you. The next was a boy that I used to be friends with who was white, and I was talking about my hair, and hair is a really intimate thing for black people. And he proceeds to mock it in front of this entire room of people, even though I told him that that's not okay. And then the last thing is that I realized I was one of 10 black people in my year, and I was 1 out of 90 of over 2,000 students. There were not that many people of color. We used to use this picture for Black History Month every month, and we would tag all of us in the class, and literally we all had our own ranger. It was perfect. So at the end of my freshman year, I found this video, and it was the first time that I found someone to put words to my experiences that I didn't know how to say as eloquently. Her name is Kai Davis. She's a spoken word poet out of Philly. She's pretty awesome. I'm going to play this video now. It should be playing. That's not the video.
Fuck I look like. No, really. I look like. I look like you got me fucked up is what I look like. You looking at me like I'm not supposed to be standing here next to you. Like, we in the same class, but your idea of advanced is too advanced and my mind can't match you. I think it's my vernacular. How I got half the consonants and twice the apostrophes, so my philosophy can't be valid. Like I speak slave and you speak slave master. This isn't a plantation, it's a classroom. White people think they run shit because they got money to buy a thesaurus. You say gargantuan, I say big as shit. Shit, it don't really matter. I guess AP stands for asshole pretentiousness. And if you don't know what that means, look it up, find a synonym. You like doing that shit. You also seem to like judging a book by the color of its author, because apparently Maya Angelou is inferior due to her grammatical errors. But white man Mark Twain can write a whole novel with nothing but grammatical errors, and that shit is a literary masterpiece. Well, I can't help but to pardon my people's slang, because real niggas ain't real niggas if they don't got a twang. I want to apologize. I want to apologize for me mugging from the back of the classroom, talking about existentialism like a motherfucking boss. It's not your fault. Niggas can't vibe with me either, because as soon as I raise my hand for anything other than a bathroom break, I become a weirdo. And God forbid I excel, a 4.0 means I'm 4 shades lighter, because apparently intelligence is a white trait. At least that's what I've gathered. This one girl asked me, why would I use big words? So I could sound like you? You know what I sound like? Like I've read a book before. I act smart, so I act white. So I can't be black and be smart because black people are dumb. All this is self-hate. And to them, that's acceptable, because white people told us niggas not to read 300 years ago, and now niggas telling other niggas not to read. What are we afraid of? It's like we think giving 100% means getting 100 lashes, and my people don't even know that we're working with our oppressors, just passing on the torch, but we can't pass the bar, because the bar's been set so low we are crushing under the weight. And you expect me to cut class and get an F just to perpetuate the stereotype that's been instilled through this bullshit curriculum? Fuck I look like. Stupidity with my melanin, nor will I ever sacrifice my skin for the white man's standards. So never ask that I speak for anyone but me, represent anything but what I stand for, and fight for anything but what I believe in. And if anybody ever expects me to do anything but be myself, they got me fucked up.
I watched that and I was like, yeah, that's exactly what I feel like. So comes Act 2. This is Conspiracy Brother. He's from Undercover Brother. So just an example of something that Conspiracy Brother would say, some character said good morning to him, and he goes, good morning, that's the white man's word. And that was me from sophomore to junior year. It was really bad. I wanted to use this character as a representation of me because I felt like I was doing too much, but there was also truth to it. There was a reason why I was reading into things because there was something there. I just went too far. So my sophomore year, I had unpacked a few things and met a girl at RISD who later inspired me to make one huge step to embracing my blackness and tackling a major taboo, hair, more importantly, natural hair. So I don't know how many people have seen memes like this, but pretty much just like this is summing up how some black people and white people feel about black people's hair. And there's this like conflict with natural hair. So when I say natural hair, I mean wearing my hair the way it naturally grows out of my head and not flat ironing, using chemicals to process it. And some people often feel pressured to do those things because, oh, my natural hair is not attractive, or they don't know what to do, or they've just been told to do that. And I had never really seen what my natural hair looked like. I was always taught that having natural hair was something that was unkept. My mother would always have it plaited or braided, or, oh my God, I remember my cousin uncornrowed my hair because he wanted to make me look like Scary Spice, and my mom was so mad, because you'd be sitting there for hours. That is not a game. And I thought that natural hair was unprofessional, and yet I met this girl named Tiara, and she was just sitting in front of me, and she went through the process called the big chop. She had all this long, beautiful, straight hair, and like that's an amazing goal in the Black community. It's like you must have, like your hair is your crown. And I was like, girl, what are you doing? Why are you cutting off all your hair? And she was like, I want to see what my real hair looks like. Like, I want to see what my natural hair looks like. And then I realized, I was like, I don't know what my natural hair looks like. And I'm 20 years old, and that's really messed up. And so I went natural, and that started influencing my own work. This is the wrong order. It's funny, but it's the wrong order. There we go. So it started influencing my own work, and I started for the first time drawing women of color in my studio classes, which is something that I never really did before. Like, as a Black person, I didn't draw Black people. I know that's crazy, right? And I wanted to draw women of color embracing features that I used to think were unattractive. So I would draw like larger lips and like very defined noses and intricate hair patterns and just styles that I thought used to think were unattractive because of how I was told to not, you know, be one with my Blackness. I also became really politically active and organized demonstrations on my campus. It was during the Black Lives Matter movement. I had talks and teach-ins. If I didn't do it, nobody else would have. I also got really political in my art. We know what that is. Have we all seen How to Get Away with Murder? Yeah. And then that's the SEE, the fraternity where they were singing on the bus. There'll never be a nigger, SEE, hanging from a tree. And I was like, fuck that shit. What else? So yeah, I got really politically active. This is how I would describe myself during that time. I got involved in the Black Lives Matter movement, started Rizzy Feminist. I started calling out my classmates in class because there was some serious bullshit going on. So embracing my Blackness allowed me to express myself in ways that I hadn't been able to before, and I realized how much I had policed myself. I went from worrying about how people looked at my hair, and I used to do this thing where when I went to stores, I would give my bags to my white friends, or like I would tie bags when I went in so that they didn't think that I was stealing, and like I stopped doing that because that's stupid. And I would question anyone who had anything to say to me about anything. Like, why? Why are you looking at me like this? And I was beginning to tell my truth and pushing my classmates to do the same. And it was my junior year that I took it a step further and started this project called Healthy Roots. I was in a class called 3D Illustration, and I had to redesign a fairy tale character. And I was like, well, all these fairy tale characters are white, and I want to see a person of color. So I decided to challenge what Rapunzel could be. So that's the handmade prototype that I made of a little doll that's supposed to represent Rapunzel as a brown girl with long, curly, natural hair, because often Rapunzel's depicted as a woman with fair skin, long blonde hair, pinnacle of beauty, trapped away in this tower because she's so precious. Black girls can also be that. And so I started this project Healthy Roots because I realized I didn't see representation in children's media. I didn't have Black dolls when I was growing up. Matter of fact, my parents tried to buy me a Black doll and I cried because I said it wasn't pretty, it was ugly. Yeah, that's bad. And so I did all this research. I looked into the Mammy Clark doll test, which they tested and asked children, both Black and white, which was a good doll, which was a bad doll, ascribing negative and positive attributes to each doll. And overwhelmingly, both Black and white children would ascribe negative attributes to the doll. And I developed this product, this character line of girls of different skin tones, different facial features, different hair textures. Got into the Social Innovation Fellowship at Brown University, where they helped me with this project, and got into Mass Challenge. But what I realized was, this is not something that people in startup world or entrepreneurship really know what to do with. They don't know what to do when you say anything that has to do with race. I would be talking to these white men, and if you want someone to not want to talk to you as fast as possible, say the words colorism in a sentence, like to an old white man, and watch him go, oh, okay. So, and I have one specific experience with a Mass Challenge team member. He was an advisor, and we had a booth, And he was telling me, he was like, oh, you guys are in Mass Challenge? Oh, I'm an advisor, da-da-da-da-da. I like your project. Can you tell me more about it? And so I was explaining the project behind it and the mission and all that. And he looks at me and he goes, I like your hair. Like, that's a nice texture. But, I don't like when black women, they have their hair straight. It looks like melted plastic. And, like, your team members' hair, like, it's okay, but, like, yours is good. You have good hair. And I was like, I had to hold my tongue. Because what am I going to say to this white man who has the power to do so much, and I do not, and I just need him to like me, and I like smile and nod, and I go like, oh, well, everyone has their opinion, da-da-da-da-da. And then I just go to my friends, but I can't believe he said that shit. So it led me to a crossroads where I had to decide if I was going to water down my project and make myself digestible to other people, or I'm going to forge my own path and push ahead and find people that cared. So I pretty much had to decide if I was going to kiss ass or seek out people who respect and understand my work. And it was really frustrating because I wanted to know why race is so taboo for these people, because we all acknowledge that it's a problem. Like, if you recognize this project is going to be beneficial for a segment of people, or like in general, why do you have a problem with it? Like, why is it difficult for you to understand? So I feel like you have to talk about the problem. People who get uncomfortable when I'm talking the problem are part of the problem. I'm not making it worse by pointing it out. If I'm pointing out the lack of diversity in these spaces, you have to do something about it. You guys just don't like being called out because inequality is a signal that you're doing something wrong. So I started a Kickstarter campaign, raised some money to launch the products, and I've been working on that ever since. We got a lot of press. People really loved the project. And I realized that Healthy Roots is a physical manifestation of me confronting taboos, the taboo of colorism, the taboo of internalized racism, and just our society has this thing where we don't want to see black women shine. We don't want to see black women happy. And it hurts because I love Beyonce, and there are just people who hate Beyonce just because she's doing good. Like, how much hatred do you have to have in your heart to be like, fuck Beyonce? She's not talented. What? I hate her. She was a Black Panther at the Super Bowl. Why can't you just be happy for her? Like, what is she doing to you personally? So Act 3, these are all wrong. Act 3, this is Beyonce's baby, Blue Ivy. I now feel like Beyonce's baby, Blue Ivy. I am hashtag carefree black girl. Blue Ivy is peak carefree black girl because she just has, you can tell that she knows that she's awesome and that she's been reaffirmed by her family in such a positive way, even though people are making such terrible comments about her. And that's what I aspire to be, and that's how I try to live my life. And if you don't understand carefree black girl, it's this idea of living your life for you despite the fact that the world does not want to see you happy sometimes. And I realized that it's important to be authentic, to be true to myself, and it's important to allow yourself to push boundaries. And that's how I feel as an artist. I feel like artists have that specific power. So I remember when I was first applying to art school, in a lot of my college letters, I focused on how I viewed art as a social tool. And I viewed it as an opportunity to educate people and expose people to different issues and things that they might not know about culturally. I was 18 and hopeful. Now I'm 22 and disappointed in society. Like, really, guys? This is what we're doing? Okay. And I'm disappointed because many people who have the power to make a difference don't realize it or push themselves out of their comfort zones. In my junior year, in the same class where Healthy Roots was born, I had a classmate say to me, it is not our job as art students to be socially responsible or aware. And I looked at him and I was like, are you fucking kidding me? That is specifically why you are here. If you're not doing it, who's gonna do it? So we have to get comfortable with being uncomfortable and addressing difficult topics in our work, because if we don't bring it up, no one else will. And we have to stop expecting someone else to break taboos for us. The last thing that I wanna say is just like a cliff note. I love when people tell me that they're inspired by what I do, but I actually hate when people say that they think I'm brave. Because when you say that it's brave, you imply that I'm choosing to do this. This is not a choice for me. It's not optional. I have to talk about these things because they affect me. So it's exhausting. And so often the burden of injustice falls on the shoulders of the oppressed. So don't just pat me on the shoulder for doing something good. Actually, help me. And yeah, that's it. had a gif of Beyonce like riding by her haters, but it didn't work, it's okay. So does anyone have questions? I love questions. Everyone asks me that. Do y'all not want people here? Damn! So I am not afraid of just, doing things on a whim, which is kind of what I did for Cincinnati. I'm in the Venture for America Fellowship Program, which is a curated job placement program for entrepreneur-type recent graduates, and they get placed around startup communities to contribute their talents and skill sets to help those communities grow. So I'm a designer. I was in the startup culture, and I feel like a lot of startups don't utilize design as much as they should because it's really important. And so I wanted to be in Venture for America, not only because of my design background, because of my social, I'm culturally competent, and I feel like it's really important to make sure that they're considering those things in those spaces. And so I was like, why not go to Cincinnati? I've never been there, and you can always leave. Like, do you want me to leave? Like, okay. Go ahead first. Go ahead. On Tinder. People get real bold behind a keyboard. Direct experiences, no. But there's like mini microaggressions, like really small things, nothing like super direct. Like people using the N-word around me. Like I was at a party, listen to this. And they were like having a conversation about the N-word, and I'm sitting right behind him, and he acknowledges my presence, and I know he acknowledges my presence, because they were talking real loud, and then as they're saying the N-word, they're whispering. I'm like, I'm right here. I know you're doing that. Like, what is wrong with you? Besides that kind of stuff, I do experience gaslighting, which is people, it's pretty much when people like make me question my own experiences of like, I think that person was a little bit biased. Maybe they were like reading me a certain type of way or perceiving me as more aggressive just because of who I am. And they go, are you sure? Maybe he was just calling you spicy because he likes you. I was like, no, because he said she has pretty blue eyes. And then he turned to me and called me spicy. I don't know why. But yeah, people haven't tried me yet. I do look forward to it though. What am I reading? I just met this finance dude, and so I'm reading a bunch of startup books right now, actually, because he's like, you need to educate yourself a little bit more. I do recommend Tim Wise, White Like Me. Junot Diaz has a lot of really good books. Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. What else? Lori Daniel Favors has a really good book. Yeah, do we want more recommendations? I don't know. But yeah, I'm reading a lot of business books right now. Google is your best friend. That's what I'll say to that. I have had so many people, because I'm really active on social media because that's how I did the Kickstarter. Like people like pay attention to my content and things like that. And things will happen, and then people will jump into my inbox and be like, oh my God, Yelitsa, what do I do? And I'm like, the first thing you can do is not come in my inbox. I'm tired. There have been articles written that explain, I don't know what to do when someone asks me to tell them what to do because I feel like we've already told people what to do so many times. But here's what I can say. Listen, you might feel really uncomfortable by something somebody says, and you'd be like, I feel personally attacked. You might be personally attacked because it might be true, but you need to put that down and just keep listening. And that's what I do as an ally for people of different identities than my own. Like my trans friends will make posts on Facebook, and I'm like, damn, he's talking about cis women. I think I do that shit, but no, and I go, wait, I'm probably wrong because I'm biased. Let me sit on that, and let me just learn something. And the best thing you can do is uplift the voices of the people who need you to lift their voices to share that information, and also recognize when your voice is utilized. Because when I say something to another white person, it might not be as impactful as a white person saying that to another white person. I have told people time and time again, they don't recognize the power that they have, because you have a relationship, maybe it's a friend, maybe it's a family member, you have a connection that I don't have with that person to have more influence on them. Is that helpful? Okay. Hey.
How do your parents feel about who you are and what you're doing?
My parents call me every week and ask me if I want to go to nursing school. That's like peak Haitian immigrant. It's like, Yelitsa, do you want to go to be a doctor? You know, we can pay for school, da 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 da. And I'm like, I have a degree and a job. My mom, I would send her clippings from newspapers, and like I would send her photos of like articles that were written about me. And because they come from a country where there's a lot of political turmoil, they're like, Yelitsa, what are you doing? Like, the government is gonna be watching you. And I'm like, chill. They don't get it, but like I made money on a project, so that's what they get. They're like, oh, you made money, you're doing a thing. Okay, money is good, yes. But yeah, I don't think they get it 100%. But my dad is really supportive, and my mom is just like, okay, that's cool, yeah.
Since we're talking about taboo topics, and I've Googled some of this, but I'm interested in hearing your perspective. There seems to be kind of this unspoken connection between black male wokeness and misogyny.
Hoteps?
Yeah, against black women, so I'm just wondering how you feel about that.
Am I supposed to like them? Because I don't. My friend Rod, who does this podcast called The Black Guy Who Tips, he has this tweet, yeah, we tip. He has this tweet that went viral, and it's, black men are the white people of black people. And that's how I feel about it. Yes. I did this on Facebook. I was like, raise your hand if you've ever felt victimized to overtip because you hear this thing. Like, I was like, damn, we overtipping, take our money back. But then like, my friends of other ethnicities were like, I also overtip because they tell us that we're cheap. And I was like, this is a conspiracy, brother. It's like, they're just telling us all of us don't tip so that we give them more money. But yeah, I think that so long as black men's goal of equality is to be on the same level as white men, they will not be with us. I think that there's a lot to address there. Yeah.
I don't understand what you said.
It was a combo between us. I was like, you knew what I meant. I was like, we knew. This is long. How do I explain black men's sexism? Black men will show up for black men's issues, but then when things happen to black women, they're not around. Or for example, one thing that I've seen that's really common is black men will 100% understand why they shouldn't be judged based on how they're dressed, being viewed as thugs. But then when it comes to women, they're like, well, if you don't want to get raped, you shouldn't be dressing like that. So it's like you can understand when it's about you, but when it's about another person who's marginalized, you don't get it because sexism. Cool. One more? Anybody else? I don't know.
I mean to keep asking about that. How is that different from regular sexism? Sorry.
So the reason why it's kind of different is that as a black person, like as a person who already has one marginalized identity, you would expect them to get it. And you would expect them to support your fellow woman of color. Like, can we do one more? Or, okay.
I just had a question about, I was looking at the timeline and you're talking natural dolls.
Healthy roots? Yeah.
And I was interested in the role that dolls being for girls plays in that, and how you thought
You mean like gendered toys?
Yeah.
I don't want them to be specifically for girls, but right now our target market is specifically anyone who is a girl of color, specifically because like that's a specific issue to those people. I was a young girl of color, as a black girl, and that's perms, braiding, that's something that we specifically experience. That's not to say that someone of a different identity can't play with it. Yeah. I know what you mean. My senior year, I made a gender neutral doll. I was gonna Kickstarter fund it, but I was like, this is not gonna happen. But I wanted to make it in a way that you got it and you didn't feel swayed or biased to dress it in a certain way. So it came with different clothes, with like neutral colors. It had a short like gender neutral haircut, and you could stamp the face instead of like having like, oh, it's already made and everything. So like you get to decide without being influenced by anyone else what you wanted that doll to look like. I think gender neutral toys are really important. Okay, that's it, right? Yay!